sure your microphone is on. Phil can help you with it if you can't tell.
Just test it quick. Is that,
There we go.
There you
Bright
go.
There we go.
green. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
If you wanna just tell me the page through wherever you'd like to be on here.
Okay, great. Yeah, you can start right there. So first of all, Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Ryan Henches, CEO of Minnesota Valley Electric Cooperative, and I want to start by saying on behalf of the team at Minnesota Valley, thank you for your time tonight. We've put together a number of slides, but again, I'm hoping to answer your questions, so feel free to direct me and stop me at any point, ask whatever questions you want, and I'll do my best to answer them. With me tonight as well, I'm gonna have a couple other representatives from Minnesota Valley. We've got Sarah Peterson, who you've seen Sarah, she's our engineering manager, you've worked with Sarah before, and Marvin Denzer. Marvin's our VP of Energy Services, who I think was here to talk with you as well. So again, thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight. So next slide, please. So I thought I'd start by giving an overview of Minnesota Valley, just to make sure that you're aware of Minnesota Valley, what we are, a little bit of background, and then talk about what an expansion of a partnership might look like, and a variety of ways we can go with that, based upon the interest tonight, and then finish with what I see as a value proposition, and talk through that with you as well. So next slide, please. So we're headquartered in Jordan. We've been around for a while. 1937 is when the co-op was formed. We're headquartered in Jordan. We serve around 968 square miles in 9 counties. We don't obviously serve all of the area in that kind of shaded territory. There's a number of municipal organizations, Xcel Energy as well. But it kind of gives you an idea of the outline or the outside of our boundaries. Right around 40, we've been growing. We're closer to 45,000 members at this point. Right around 100 employees, 57,000 meters. So I've got quite a bit to manage a fairly large area. It is a combination of both rural and suburban service territory. So we've got a combination of those type of environments to manage. So just a little bit about co-ops. Co-ops were really created in the 30s because investor-owned, municipals were serving their towns. Investor-owns were going and kind of handpicking the other more densely populated areas because that made financial sense. So co-ops really started because there was a need to serve the more rural areas, and they weren't being served. So that's where we got our start back in the 30s. Across the U.S. right now, there's about 900 co-ops, right around 50 in Minnesota, and the service territory kind of meanders all over the place. That's kind of the big picture view. Some characteristics of a co-op is, similar to municipal, we're a not-for-profit organization. So what that means is on a yearly basis, any revenues or any profits in excess of what we need to run the business goes back to the membership. So it goes back in the form of what we call capital credits. So from that perspective, we're a not-for-profit organization. A key thing is we're governed by those we serve. So every member of Minnesota Valley gets to vote and elect our board of directors. I report directly to the board of directors. They meet, as you would meet, and set policies and check up and make sure that we're doing the right things that they've set forth, and really provide direction for the organization. So every member of Minnesota Valley gets to vote in their district for who represents them on the board. The other thing, similar to Arlington, we don't own generation assets. So rather, we work similar to how you work with MMPA. We actually work with 3 other what are called generation and transmission organizations to generate the electricity and then transmit it to our substations. And then from there, we take it to the homes, farms, and businesses in our service territory. Next slide, please. So what's really important to us and what really informs our daily decisions and daily direction of the co-op is our vision and mission. And sometimes, these can be kind of academic exercises, to be honest with you, as many of you may experience. But for us, we're really focused on them. And when it comes to vision, the first part is actually I've got these backwards on the slide. Apologize for that, but our vision is to be a trusted energy partner, loyal to the community now and for future generations. What we mean by that is we're making decisions not for earnings call or to make the profits look good for the end of the quarter. We're looking for a long-term vision with the organization, trying to meet our members' needs long and well into the future. Communities are very important to us. That's what we came out of. Really, farmers in the area got together. At the time, I think they chipped in $5 a piece to start the co-op and start stringing lines. So the communities are important to us, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We try to be very active in our communities. From a mission perspective, on a daily basis, our goal is to create exceptional member experiences while safely providing reliable energy at cost. There's kind of a lot in that. But big picture is we view every member interaction as an opportunity to exceed our members' expectations. Every phone call, every interaction is important to us, and we really focus on that. Safety, obviously, is critical. We need to work in a safe environment both for us and for our members. Reliability, again, if the lights are flickering, if we don't have power, it's an issue, and we work really hard at that. And at cost, again, we need to be cost competitive, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So again, some fundamentals. We were really focused on a culture of safety across all 100 team members. So everyone's involved, and it's something that we track, we train on, and we really promote. Engineering, Sarah leads our engineering area, 29 substations across the 968 square miles, about 2,000 miles of overhead line, 2,000 miles of underground line. Overall plant investment right around $200 million. So that's a lot of investment in plant to initially put in, but also equally important is not just putting it in, but maintaining it and making sure that we're doing the correct things to reduce the potential for future outages, to maintain the lines, and plan for future growth. To accomplish some of those type of items, this year our construction budget was $13.3 million. So that's upgrading line, adding new line, upgrading services, making the investments in our infrastructure to make sure that, again, it meets our needs today and then well into the future. So when it comes to exceptional member experiences, big picture, we focus on two items. One is providing information to our members, and then providing programs. So when I say information, all of our members, both on their bill and via the app or online, can look at monthly, daily, and even hourly meter usage, so they know exactly when they're using electricity. That helps them understand, if a sump pump has just got stuck on and keeps running. I've had a whole variety of interesting situations. We've had members who have left the heating coils on their roof. In the summer, they've been surprised at why the electric bill has been so high. We've worked with them. We've been able to trace it back and find that some of those things need to get turned off in the summer. So a variety of uses for that data, but primary importance is to allow them to understand, to be transparent with their usage, transparent with the bill. If you can see in there, I'm sorry, it's a little small, but we've got average daily cost. So every member knows on average what they're spending on electricity every day. Again, that helps inform decisions, and that's available either online or on the printed bill. So once you have that information, then you can start making wise decisions on what programs you participate in. Our Energy Wise programs are off-peak programs. So essentially moving electricity usage from the high cost times to the low cost times. When our members do that, we incent them and we provide them the benefit of that by a reduced rate. So that rate can be up to half of our normal rate. It can be as much as $7 a month for some programs. We have members on these that save quite a bit of money. We're seeing now the last two, the Wi-Fi thermostat one has been very interesting. Members are able to participate to get a Wi-Fi thermostat. They learn a lot about their electric use, but also gas usage, other things as well from that thermostat, and they have the convenience of increasing, decreasing temperatures from their phone. Electric vehicles, we're seeing more and more of those in our area. I think we've got right around 250 or so at this point. We have a rate that allows them to charge off-peak, essentially overnight. If they charge overnight, I think it's about 5 cents. Compared to a normal rate, which is more than that. So again, it's another good value. So now there's a lot of different. So you've got a lot of information. You got a lot of different programs to choose from. The last part is we try to stay member focused in our interaction, and that means we've got people to answer the phones on a daily basis. So if you call, you don't go through a calling tree. You go right to right now. Christy or Lisa will answer the phone, and they'll direct you to one of about 5 member service reps who will answer your questions. We also have a key account program, which Marvin leads, and that's focused on our larger industrial and commercial members. Often they have more specific needs, more specific interests in the usage of electricity, what they can do, how they can set up their services, what rebates are available. We have a group, Marvin has a group himself and 2 others that focus on the commercial aspect, our commercial members, to make sure that they're getting the level of service that they need. So, and I apologize if I'm going quickly through this. Feel free to slow me down if you have any questions. Again, some of the programs that I thought I would highlight, we've talked about a little bit. Again, in the middle, you can see what our bill looks like. So you can see the graph, usage. So every member all of our members have this bill. The average usage, and then you can see each bar represents how much they use per day. So you can see some days are higher, some days are lower, and then you can get information and make decisions from there. In the upper right-hand corner, that's our thermostat, kind of what the thermostat program looks like. So, sitting here tonight, you could open up the app and look and increase the temp or decrease the temp. You can set different thresholds on a variety of things there. Our pay-as-you-go program, I think we may be the only utility at this point in Minnesota offering this. Think of it as kind of a prepaid program where sometimes it's more convenient for people to pay $20 a week than $100 or $125 a month. So this offers a little more flexibility. They put money on the account as they've got it. It draws down over time, and they replenish it as they're able. So also see a significant conservation effect with that. I think when people see and they see that balance going down, it impacts usage. We think somewhere around a 10 to 12% conservation impact with that program for a variety of reasons. Let's see. Smart Hub is the app that we have right now. We actually initially partnered with Google. We were one of 10 utilities nationwide to partner with Google back in 2010 to bring the Google Power Meter to our members. Google decided they didn't want to do it anymore and kind of left us in a lurch. We partnered with our technology organization, NISC, and worked with them to develop Smart Hub, which is now in use with about 400 to 500 co-ops across the U.S. Texting for outages is something that we just deployed in August. So we got a lot of feedback. Members wanted more options for outage communications. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a slide or two, but now our members can text in outages. Electric vehicle charging program you see in the lower left-hand corner. That just shows the bars signify the rate that you'd pay at the different hours of the day. So as you can see, It gets fairly expensive right around the 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, I think is when it is, and then really drops off after that. What we're trying to do is encourage people to use electricity off-peak, and when they do that, we provide the price benefit to them. So those taking the action get the benefit of that action. And last one I'll mention on the right is our Green Choice program. That's a program where we allow our members, or actually we facilitate our members buying renewable energy credits. And that's just a way for a member who wants to be more renewable than what we currently are, then they can individually choose to do so. The rest of the membership isn't subsidizing that, they're paying for that. And we have a number of members, quite a few members participating in that. Again, it's an optional program. Right now, we're about 20% renewable and growing. So from an outage communication perspective, one of the things that we hear from our members is they want to know about outages, want to know status. They want to, do you know about it? How long is it going to be? And then what took place? Are kind of some of the common items. So we have an outage, our dispatch center that's staffed right now 7 until 11 at night, Monday through Friday. Off hours, it goes to cooperative response center, which is an after hours call center. However, Marvin's group is bringing a proposal to our board this month for a 24/7 dispatch center. So we'll see if we wind up doing that, but that's something that we may be doing. In order to communicate outages, we do have an online outage map. Outside of business hours, our members call in. It's either answered by someone from Cooperative Response Center, or it's handled by our automated voice system at that point after hours, and it's logged. Our members can also text in the outage now. They can, in that Smart Hub app that I mentioned, they can report it there. So there's a variety of ways to report. We try on outages larger than about 250 members, we'll post on Facebook what's going on. And you can see on the side, those are some of the responses that we get. Generally on the larger outages, members want to know, but what's going on? Is it just me or who is it? And it's a way for us to communicate with our members and let them know what's going on. So this is a focus of ours and something that we've tried to expand. 15 years ago, the thought of having an online outage map made little to no sense because people didn't have the cell phone or the smartphones, and nowadays it's something that it gets a lot of action when we do have outages. So again, as I talked about, as a co-op, we're very focused on our local communities, a variety of community events and parades. Our linemen will drive trucks. We have an electric vehicle that we drive in the parades as well, and pass out candy and do a variety of things. We try to interact with the schools in our area as well. We've done a variety of things with them. Every year we've got high school scholarships. We give away 15 scholarships to high school seniors. We also do or have done a local career day where we bring in high school kids. They go through the co-op and learn about accounting and dispatch and engineering and all those different things. So those are good programs that we like. Operation Roundup is a program where all of our members have the option to round up their bill. So if your bill's $75.23, you'd round it up to $74. Then that spare change goes into a aggregated pot, and then from there we have a separate board that takes all of those funds and then applies it, gives it out to local organizations. I think up there we've given to the Sibley County Fair, Sibley East Backpack Programs, Arlington Fire Department, Sibley County Food Share. This year we just passed $2 million of grants through that program. The board that runs that does an excellent job, gives a lot of, funds out to a lot of really good causes. And economic grants, we've done a few different ones. One, was here in Arlington with the community center that we partnered with you on a number of years ago. Most recently, we did one in Montgomery on Main Street, a new restaurant, I guess, in Montgomery. That's doing pretty well. Got off. It kind of started at a tough time right when COVID kicked off. So. But I think now they're doing really well. So, we do everything we can to help and support our local communities through grants, through interaction, however we can. So, in 2015, we partnered with 11 other cooperatives and purchased the Minnesota assets of Alliant Energy. Alliant Energy is an investor-owned utility out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and in Wisconsin as well. They had a variety of locations. You can kind of see the yellow or the gold lines. That's where Alliant was serving. So we got together, the 12 co-ops kind of labeled there, got together and purchased the assets from Alliant. So for Minnesota Valley, what that meant is in 2015, we began to serve the cities of Montgomery and Lee Center. So for us, it was about 3,500 to 4,000 new members that we brought on, brought into the co-op. Since that point, we've made a lot of investments in infrastructure, tree trimming. All of those members sharing the same information and programs that the other members have, and it's been a positive experience. From our perspective, it's been a positive experience. From what we hear, it's been a positive experience from their perspective as well. It was about a year ago where we were working with the city of Shakopee. City of Shakopee went out for an RFP to have someone help manage their utility. We responded to that RFP, and both the mayors of Montgomery and Lee Center wrote us letters of recommendation for that. So we felt good about that. We appreciated their support there. But that was a big process. We went through it. We'd do it again. From a cooperative perspective, we think it was valuable, and I think for the members we serve, I think they would think it was valuable as well. So again, we've had a history of service in our community since 1937. So we've been here. We've been part of our communities. Also have had a history of partnership with Arlington. Sarah and others have worked with you for a number of years now, for quite a while, and we've really enjoyed that partnership. So we definitely want to continue that partnership. I think if you step back and look at Minnesota Valley, I think if you look at our safety, our rates, reliability, member service, and innovation, I think you'd find them very strong compared to other utilities. So we feel good. We feel good about what we've done. Always looking to grow and get better and continue to innovate and make the next right move. But we also feel good about where we've come from and where we're at now. So that's big picture of Minnesota Valley. Now I'll talk a little bit about expanding what expanding our partnership might look like, and I broke it into these areas, and I thought maybe this made the most sense. I kept it pretty high level. We can go into whatever details and whatever questions you might have, but generally it's financial, I think power supply, and then a big part is the operational transition, what that looks like, how you make sure it's a smooth process. Again, we went through that process and we did it with Alliant, but it does take a lot of work on everyone's part to get to that point. So, obviously the key question is, what are the numbers? What's the purchase price, and how, without getting into specific numbers, generally what we've done or what we've seen is there's an asset purchase. So if there were to be a transaction where if Minnesota Valley, or if Arlington was interested in selling a utility, there'd be the asset purchase, which is the total assets that are electrical within the city. There'd also be the ongoing value of the utility. So what's not just what's the current assets, but what's the value of that utility into the future. Variety of different ways. The asset purchase, that one's fairly straightforward. I think there's a few decisions, but pretty straightforward. Value estimate, that there's probably a few different ways to do that we've seen. Then the other adjustments is we develop generally those numbers, and then it's okay, what other kind of future investments would need to be made, if it's plant investment or whatever it might be, service investments, and then are there any rate adjustments, meaning are the current rates recovering from what we say is a cost of service? So are they recovering the cost to run the utility? If not, are there adjustments that need to be made from there? And that's something that has to be, would always have to be determined. And then purchase price winds up being somewhat of a conglomeration of all of that. So the power supply side of it, generally we see probably 3 different paths, but really this would need to be a conversation with MMPA. From a Minnesota Valley perspective, we currently work with 3 different power suppliers. Within those 3 different power suppliers, we have multiple contracts. So we have contracts with a whole variety of people for a whole variety of power supply services. So we're familiar with how to contract, we're familiar with the power supply contracts, but a lot of times the easiest way to figure out is to sit down and talk with the others. As I've seen an MMPA contract, there may be a way to terminate it, but that way may require a buyout. Again, I can't tell for sure. It seems like the contract could be legally assumed by Minnesota Valley, and then or someone else, and then they would just in essence pay that. Or become a member of MMPA. Again, I'm not sure if MMPA bylaws would allow that. I haven't seen those. The last one is really just to kind of keep somewhat status quo, where Arlington continues to interact with MMPA, and Minnesota Valley or someone else winds up paying that monthly power supply bill. So there's a lot of conversation. This would be a big area of conversation where, obviously there's a lot of interested parties in this, and we need to understand that. I'd say we're, again, with 3 power suppliers, we are in weekly power supply conversations. So handling power supply is something that we do daily. So comfortable with the concept, but also understand that there's a lot of conversation here to figure out. So, once there's a general working idea of what the purchase price or the transaction price would be, and power supply figured out, then it's really transition plans, and I think generally in those areas, it would need a detailed communication plan so that everybody knew what was going on, what the concepts were, engineering plans to make sure the integrations worked correctly. From an operations perspective, ensure that we're, from a metering perspective, from an outage response perspective, from an upgrade, all those type of things would have to be considered and really detailed out. Rates, those would have to be figured out. Keeping current rates, are there rate changes? That would fall under the communications aspect as well, obviously, if there were any changes. And the next 2, the billing and the data, Seems somewhat like a mundane item, but can really be a problem if not done correctly. So from our experience, making sure data transition happens accurately and in a timely manner is a big deal. So there's a lot of details in this, in those kind of high level bullet items. But again, it's something that we've gone, Minnesota Valley's gone through this process before, so we do have an idea what things to be thinking about. So and then next steps, again, I wasn't sure on where the council was at, so I wanted to put something together, and I thought we have our board meeting. I talk about that on the next slide. Actually, we've got a board meeting on Monday the 25th where I'll give an update to the board about what we talk about tonight. Depending upon what the council sees as next steps, then I would talk to our board about that. Again, two key things are the financial analysis has to be finalized, has to be gone through, and then the power supply options discussion needs to take place with MMPA. So to me, those are two of the next key steps. If we can get past those and it makes sense for everybody, and there's agreement with what with a movement forward in some direction, then it's develop the more detailed operational plan of what specifically are we how would we do this. So an authorization, again, from Minnesota Valley perspective, our board of directors is our governing body. They're responsible for authorizing any type of transaction. Also put in there, if agreement is reached, and I realize that there's steps that the council would need to go through if we got to this point, but we'd also need to file with Public Utility Commission. I don't really see that as a hurdle, but something that would need to be done from an administrative perspective. So again, big picture, we've enjoyed our partnership with the city, and we'd like to continue that. We're local. We have a proven track record and experience with this type of transaction. I think if Minnesota Valley is able to help the city, that frees up city resources from their work in the electric utility side of it. I think we can bring some new and innovative service offerings to both residential and commercial members as things move forward. And my assumption would be any deal would offer a financial benefit to the city, which would be good as well. So from a value perspective, those are the high level things that we're thinking of. So that's from our perspective, some of our thoughts. I'd be happy to entertain any questions people have, any thoughts, anything, or any direction from the council.
Do you know what our rates are currently right now for electricity?
I believe so. I think, are they the same as are posted on the website? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So how do we compare to what you are, or would it change at all, go up, down?
Yeah. So right now it looks like it would be. It looks like it would be an increase.
Yep.
But again, we'd have to work through that and the details of that. What we did with how we handled the situation when we purchased the Alliant assets, Alliant had not done any rate adjustments in Minnesota since 2010. So they were losing money. Alliant was losing money. So what we did is agreed to no rate increase for, I think, 3 years. And then after that time frame, we kind of feathered in the rate increase to get it up to what was required to cover the cost of service. So there's a variety of ways to handle it. And I also, I think it, yeah, at some point it'd be good to have a little more detailed discussion about the rate differential. There's a few other things, questions that I have. I think, one of the simple ones is we don't charge for electronic payments or credit card payments. Sometimes people charge $3 to $4 for
We
that.
do.
Okay.
We charge 2.5%.
So that makes up some of the difference. Capital credits, again, are the patronage. Over time, money goes back to those that are paying the bill. So over time, whoever's, the residents of Arlington would get capital credit payments. Now, full, transparency, right now we're on about a 23-year rotation. So that's not something that's going to happen in the next couple of years. It would be a number of years. The other thing we like to think is when you look at some of our programs, they do offer different savings. So if members engage with us, sign up for our programs, then that winds up being an overall cost benefit to them.
And you have funds for capital investment in the system, correct?
We do. Yep.
Something the city council will need to look at.
Can you just clarify, so Minnesota Valley in our
If you were to
infrastructure?
take it over. Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Questions?
Why the approach to Arlington? What is the advantage for MVEC?
Really just expanding the partnership. So, I think it's a conversation. If there's interest and it works for both parties, great. If not, then, we have similar conversations with others as they're looking at, do they want to sell? Part of it is, obviously we have, through the partnership, we do feel a connection with Arlington, I think I would say. I mean, we've had, as you all know, a number of employees from Arlington and the surrounding area. It's not just it's not just another city. Arlington is something different, being in our, really in our area. So.
The capital credits, you're on a 23-year rotation. If Arlington became part of the system, how does that work? If, let's say there's a service fee that was paid that generates a capital credit, would Arlington's residents, being new to the system, first see a capital credit disbursement 23 years later?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. Just like any other member, that comes into our system right now, it's on about a 23-year rotation. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That seems to be typical of all co-ops. Well, the length of time, payback differs, but.
Yep.
You mentioned 3 different power suppliers.
Correct.
Why 3? Is it regional or?
No, in 2005, we started what's really a diversification strategy with power supply. As you know, for us, power supply is about 70% of our members' bill. I'm sure similar with Arlington, somewhere around there. We wanted to avoid situations in which there are peaks in power supply costs and then valleys in power supply costs. So with the 3 different power supply partners, I guess, in a variety of different contracts within that, we feel we're reducing the risk and offering a very competitive price for power. So especially now as we're seeing the generation of electricity transition, different organizations transitioning through that at different rates. If you have just one, from my perspective, there's risk in that. If you have multiples, they're going through that process at different times, which mutes any significant issue.
And how is the actual power purchase handled? Do you compare rates among your three suppliers from month to month? Or do you contract them out for a period of years and they each supply a certain percentage? How's that work?
It's a good question. Complex answer, kind of a long answer, but we have a contract with Great River Energy in Maple Grove. That serves right now about 60% of our load, and that serves a fixed amount of the power that we buy. So they serve about they serve about 60% of our overall power supply. That contract right now the whole contract lasts until 2045. There's specific contracts in that larger contract that come due from, over the course of time. We also have a contract with Basin Electric out of Bismarck, North Dakota. Basin, that's about 30% of our power supply. That contract lasts until 2050. That contract's pretty straightforward. It's any additional growth in our service territory above our 2005 fixing amounts with Great River Energy. So they serve all growth. And then Alliant Energy through the acquisition serves about 10%. That contract lasts until 2025, so that one will be due in a couple of years. Within the Great River Energy contract, we have probably 4 or 5 other subcontracts that are a combination of wind energy, contract purchases, a variety of other items.
And when the electric input comes in, do you in effect, rate-wise, it's averaged throughout your system?
Yes. Yep.
So, for example, you mentioned this Basin Electric picks up any additional. So that wouldn't mean that Arlington would get its power from Basin Electric at their rates.
Correct. It would not mean that.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And just to clarify that, the reason is that contract is our specific to, I think, our 2006 service territory. So anything out of our current service territory, which Arlington would be out of our current service territory, does not go to Basin. And contractually, my assumption would be, the MMPA contract would likely run until I thought it was 2040, but I'm not certain. Okay.
Sounds right.
Okay. So again, there's a variety of ways to look at how to handle that. The easiest way would be just continue status quo till 2040. We pay, Minnesota Valley would pay that bill, and then, but overall, that would be part of our overall power supply portfolio, is how we'd look at it. To give you an idea of the size of that, I think my understanding is Arlington's right around 20 million kilowatt hours, somewhere around there per year, 2 million kilowatt hours per month, I think. Minnesota Valley, so right around 20 million kilowatt hours. Our overall power portfolio is about 950 million kilowatt hours, so it would be part of that. The cost would be, in essence, smoothed out throughout that power supply portfolio.
In that scenario, do I understand MVEC would pay the MMPA bill, but that MMPA would continue to shift its power to Arlington?
Correct.
But you would then average that throughout your whole system as far as the customer rates?
Yep. So the theoretic benefit of that is, again, the potentially more stable power supply costs. Now, I can't speak to MMPA. It may be very, very stable, and their projections might be very stable. I'm just saying it seems like averaging that over 4 different power suppliers and a larger pool might give a little more stability.
Is there any part in your vision of generating your own power, your own energy, whether it be through solar or what have you in your communities, or?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something we're really working on right now. So and I'll explain. So the short answer is yes. The more complex answer is our contract with Great River Energy. One of the assets in our Great River pool of assets is Coal Creek Station in Bismarck, in North Dakota. That plant is closing or will be sold. When that happens, we have options for how we replace that energy, and it's a significant amount for us. So we're looking at different contracts for replacement, and we're looking at the potential of local solar. Not to get into the weeds too much, historically, the cost of solar has been a little bit more than what we've paid for market-based energy. However, right now, as you may be following the price of natural gas, everything is up. So the price of energy is up. So local solar is starting to make more and more sense. So we're watching that, and we're looking at that, and we may.
When you say local solar, how do you define that?
Good question. Yeah, local within our service territory. So, and really where that would be largely dependent upon where it would fit best electrically, and and from a community perspective as well. Some places rather not have it, other places may.
So let's say Arlington was willing to have it, would you more or less subsidize people to put it on their roofs and things like that?
No, how I'd foresee doing it is building a large array somewhere in this area. And then that just becomes part of the overall power portfolio, the larger power portfolio. So no individual wind up paying specifically for it. It just means, as a group, our electricity is that much more renewable. Does that make sense?
When you absorbed the Center and Montgomery systems, they were under Alliant.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had a transition involving a city-owned utility?
No,
Okay.
no.
We haven't looked at this for very long, but I guess there was a question which we haven't fully resolved. We're a charter city, and our charter requires, right now, a vote of the citizens. There's an Attorney General's opinion that the League of Cities provided with us that kind of raises a gray area question about that. And so I guess we'd need to clarify that a little further.
Sure.
From a political standpoint, whether it's required or not in the law, it's something the city council might still decide to do, put it to the voters. Okay. Another question that comes up, in most areas, when the city is looking at a major purchase or some kind of a major economic change, we typically have to put it out to bids. And that's another question, I guess, that comes up. Does that apply to a utility? And I guess we're not sure what the answer to that is either. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't, and I wasn't exactly sure what the process was from a city perspective, what specifically, what the steps were. So, we're flexible in however the city would want to move forward. I think, so however the city wants to move forward obviously is fine with us, and we can accommodate. When we had the Alliant purchase, we had open houses where we were out talking with, had open houses where people could come in and ask all their questions, so that it wasn't, we want to be very open about it. So, we'd follow your lead in how the city would want to do that, but just know we'd be very open from a communication perspective and doing anything like that.
As far as emergency response, how do you usually handle it if you're taking on a new territory? Do you have a local garage that you can dispatch crews out of, or does everything come out of Jordan, or what is the setup right now?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we dispatch for that entire area out of Jordan, but we've adjusted some of our practices with COVID, and we have crews taking vehicles home. You know, and obviously we respond to the surrounding area currently for outages, just not within the city. So, you know, I think what we would do is just watch what happens. If there is a comfort level, I'm just thinking this right now. It could we could, you know, watch things very closely maybe for a while. Have a crew dedicated. There's a variety of ways that we could do it. Until there's a comfort level that things are under control. But generally for the rest of, you know, the 968 square miles, the process that we're using has worked. So I don't know that we would have a specific garage or anything unless there needed to be.
Response time though that you currently offer your customers?
Yeah, right now I think it's is our Katie number 70. Right around, I think overall our average response time is right in the 70 minutes.
I noticed in the map, we would be kind of on the western edge of the
Yeah.
territory.
Yeah.
So, just wondering if there might be a satellite service facility out in this area at some point.
And there could be, as you know, the other thing we're seeing is obviously growth in the Victoria area and the Victoria area and Carver. It may necessitate at some point having crews on different sides of the river. We've talked about that. We haven't done anything yet. I think if we're seeing issues with response times, then that's something that we would move quickly on. You know, reliability. I mean, safety and then reliability for us. Those are the big two.
Okay, any other questions from the council? We do have, Joe has a question. Joe?
Well, I was just, does MVEC, do you guys already respond if we have, let's say we had a power pole break or something? Aren't we having you guys service it now?
No, right now I believe McLeod. Yeah,
Correct.
McLeod is
McLeod
doing it.
Power does that. We have separate, MVEC is our engineer.
Plus it's outside of the city limits.
Okay.
Well, then
That's
it-
you're pretty much all the way around that. You're,
No, McLeod is on
Obviously.
half.
Okay.
Yeah, McLeod's on the west half, we're on the
Northwest.
east.
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of east.
Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, that does. I mean, I knew we were having somebody deal with it. I just wasn't quite sure. I know I see, you know, going out of town, I see the MVEC, you know, basically little substations and stuff. So I just assume that they're, you know, kind of all around us as well.
Okay. Well, we do have a council meeting here in about 5 minutes, so I'm going to call this meeting to an end, and thank you very much, Mr. Hinges, for your presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
This is
tonight.
just the start of a process, and we'll see how far we get with it.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.